Welcome back. Now we've got all of our material cut for our project. We now want to start assembling our project. So in order to assemble it, a lot of the simplest and easiest ways to assemble things these days are with pneumatic fastening tools. The pneumatic fastening tool we're working with today is called a brad nailer. Now the brad nailer has a couple of features with it. There's definitely a safety feature involved here. This is the safety switch on this particular one. Unless this particular lever is depressed, it will not dispense a nail when you pull the trigger. Okay? You can have it plugged into a line as long as you want, pull the trigger, nothing will happen. As soon as you push on this and pull the trigger, it will dispense a nail for you. Okay? So we're always going to make sure that the safety works on all of our air tools before we actually hook up to anything else. So first thing I do whenever I pick up an air tool is, does the safety work? Sometimes it'll get jammed, it'll get bent, you'll drop this, it'll bend it, and it'll jam it for you. This is the trigger that will actually fire the nail for you. The brad nailer also, when you're pulling the trigger, it dispenses air in there. This is the exhaust port. The exhaust port, when you let go of the trigger, it will blow some air out of there. So if you're working in close proximity to this, you don't want the air blowing at you, turn the exhaust port so it blows out the front. It's going to blow away from you and it won't affect you, it won't scare you. The other thing you need for a brad nailer is you need some sort of fasteners in there. So this is the magazine release, the lever on the top. It's going to pull back the magazine for you, and the nails, you're going to let them fall out. The nails, when you install them, lay the gun over on its side, pick them up, and just simply flip them over in there. You're going to notice that there's multiple grooves down the inside of the magazine. That's for all the different sizes of nails you can put in here. Now the size of the nails are determined by a decal somewhere on the gun. This particular one has it right on the very face here, as well as the nail size, which reads from 5/8 to 2 inches long. It also says the air pressure needs to be regulated. The operating air pressure is between 60 and 115 pounds per square inch. You need to check the air pressure on your air compressor. It is adjusted on there, you have a regulator on there. If you do not have one on your air compressor, you need to install a regulator in line with your tool so it doesn't overpressurize it. If you overpressurize it, a lot of times nothing's going to happen today, but over a period of time it will wear out your tool faster for you. It's like putting too much battery voltage into an electrical device. Eventually it burns it out. Okay? So once you have the right nails, and to select the right nails, what you need to do is you need to take a look at the type of material you're going to be fastening through. General rule of thumb is, however thick that material is you're passing through, you need to pass through the other piece with equal or more of that fastener. So this board is 3/4 of an inch thick. These brad nails that I have are 1.5 inches. So 3/4 through the first board, 3/4 into the bottom one equals 1.5 inches. These are 1.5 inches. So these are the minimum size that it should be using to fasten these ones together. Okay? So in order to make this work, we're going to take the nails. You're going to look at the nail themselves. They have a T at the top where the head is. The bottom has a chisel tip. Chisel tip goes into the bottom of the nail gun. Flip it over on its side. This is spring loaded, very similar to a magazine if you had a rifle where you loaded in a couple of rounds, and you're going to push it in until it snaps into place. Once it snaps into place, the gun is now loaded. We now need to power it up because we have locked it down for any operations in here, including putting a fresh set of nails or staples or whatever it is you're putting inside your fastener. Please disconnect the air line, just in case something happens with the safety and you accidentally pull the trigger during the loading process. You're not going to dispense a fastener into someone. Air lines themselves, pull back on the collar. That releases the retention balls on the inside. Put firm pressure on the collar and push it together and make sure the collar goes in all the way. This now is powered up. This is ready to fire nails. First thing I would do as well too, to make sure the safety still works, I made sure it was moving before. I won't pull the safety back now because if I do and I pull the trigger, it will dispense a nail. I would take and pull the trigger, and nothing is happening out of this, which is good. This is safe now. Okay? Whenever you're putting wood together, a lot of times we wind up using a little bit of glue. We've got some Wellbond glue here. We're going to put a thin bead of glue down on the wood itself. Thin bead of glue will probably actually hold more than what the brad nails will. We're going to put our piece of wood down on top of the glue, We're going to push it down so the glue comes out a little bit. Now, when we take the brad nailer, we're going to push it down so the safety is depressed. Going to make sure the edges of our wood, both at the front edge and the side edge, are flush with each other so they stay in place. And then we'll pull the trigger. When you pull the trigger, you heard that sound, it dispensed one brad nail into that piece of wood. If you notice the brad nail gun, I'm keeping this parallel with the wood surface. This is going to drive the nail 90 degrees into the wood. The other thing I have to watch when I do that is I don't want to be twisting the gun to the left or the right, because that also will redirect the nail on a different angle for you. Okay? So these particular ones, I'm just going to drive another nail in the middle here. If you can't push down hard enough with one hand, put your other hand on top of it and hold it. That way, when you're pushing it in, the nails will drive in all the way for you. The gun does have a little bit of recoil, a little bit of kickback. Okay? So if you're not feeling comfortable, use two hands on this. Once you get comfortable with it, you don't need to use two hands. It doesn't have two handles on it. Remember the rules of power tools. If it has two handles, use it. These don't have two handles. Okay? These nails now are 90 degrees into the wood. If you want to make this joint stronger, take and put the nails on an angle. Add a couple extra nails on an angle for you. And one thing you got to watch, like that one, is they don't always go all the way in when you go on an angle. The reason why that makes them stronger is if they're on an angle like that, that nail to be pulled out has to come straight out. These nails got to come straight out like this. So it's impossible for this action and this action to happen at the same time, which makes this joint extremely strong now. Okay. Once you're through with your brad nailer, lock it out before you pass it to your neighbor. Other thing, a lot of times what we wind up doing is remove the nails from there. The nails, put them back in the box that they came from, and that way they're ready for the next person to be using. If you don't take the nails out, sometimes somebody's just going to pick it up, assuming they have the correct size brads or nails in there, and start using it, finding out that either one, they're too long, or they're not long enough. The other thing you need to watch when you're working with brad nailers, and this happens quite often, is when you're putting nails in, you're never going to keep your hand close to this area that you're nailing. Because the nails a lot of times will hit something inside the wood and they're going to come out the side of the wood for you. These are very sharp. If you happen to be holding it with your fingers here and the nail comes out the side, it's going to pierce your finger. It will not feel very good, and you will be probably making a trip to the first aid department, either to stitch it up for you or disinfect and clean the puncture wound. Okay? It does not feel very good.